Welcome to this Connect M3 Thought Byte podcast recorded on the 10th of January 2025. I'm David Charles and my Thought Byte today is titled, Where do I begin with this? Our strapline, is it time to let go our old system, like an old car which no longer serves? An astute citizen asked himself a question. Has this Labour government and the now UK PM gone back on the promises made to the citizens in the lead up to the July 24 general election? His analysis resulted in an emphatic yes. That being so, and seeing that the election had been won on false promises and lies, he started a petition calling for another election. Astonishingly, the petition has captured the mood of the citizens, propelling the petition in less than 5 weeks to over 3 million signatures in support of the call. This petition, in so many ways, is set to make ground-moving history. And the petition, created by Michael Westwood, said, and I quote, "I would like there to be another general election. I believe the current Labour government have gone back on the promises they laid out in the lead-up to the last election." And the government formally responded with this, and I quote, "This government was elected on a mandate of change at the July 2024 general election. Our full focus is on fixing the foundations, rebuilding Britain and restoring public confidence in government. The Prime Minister can call a general election at any time of their choosing by requesting a dissolution of Parliament from the Sovereign within the 5-year life of a Parliament. The government was elected by the British people on a mandate of change at the July 2024 general election. This government is fixing the foundations and delivering change with investment and reform to deliver growth, with more jobs, more money in people's pockets, to rebuild Britain and get the NHS back on its feet. This will be built on the strong foundations of a stable economy, national security and secure borders as we put politics back in the service of working people." On entering office, a £22 billion black hole was identified in the nation's finances. We inherited unprecedented challenges, with crumbling public services and crippled public finances, but will deliver a decade of national renewal through our 5 missions: economic growth, fixing the NHS, safer streets, making Britain a clean energy superpower, and opportunity for all. This is what was promised and is what we are delivering. The government's first budget freed up tens of billions of pounds to invest in Britain's future while locking in stability, preventing devastating austerity in our public services, and protecting working people's payslips. Mission-led government rejects the sticking plaster solutions of the past and unites public and private sectors, national, devolved and local government, business and unions, and the whole of civil society in a shared purpose. The government will continue to deliver the manifesto of change that it was elected on. And that was the response by the Labour Cabinet Office. The government's first response, let's consider that. I was astonished by the Cabinet Office response as detailed just a moment ago. The government should be focused on these things and many more things unlisted. It completely ignores the fact that the government failed to keep its promises and did so within a few short months. Given the scale of the failure, one might have thought there might have been a Prime Minister's address to the nation saying we have failed on these promises because. But no, it was business as usual. Cover over the cracks and pretend the masses haven't realised. Quick, give them all something else to worry about. The weather, maybe. There is an arrogance here which is difficult to ignore and can't be forgiven. It is an arrogance shown by nearly every servant member of Parliament at some point, irrespective of party colour, and certainly by most of the senior post-holding servant members of Parliament. As the title to this thought bite suggests, it is difficult to know where to begin with this story, since there are so many things to draw attention to and to analytically unpack. There are so many, in fact, I'm only going to introduce here some of the main headings to take note of. This story is so important to our democracy and the system of government citizens currently endure, it deserves and needs to be revisited again in much greater depth over the weeks and months to come. Speaking of months, all petitions have a time window of 6 months. The idea is that if over this time the petition can reach 100,000 signatures, then the government will consider if there should be a debate on the subject. Oddly, it isn't a given, as parliamentary protocols currently specify. Launched on the 20th of November 2024, the number of signatures amassed for this petition, reaching 100,000 in just a few days, got to a stonking 3 million in under 5 weeks on Monday the 23rd of December. That is a third of the votes cast for Labour last July. The window for this petition closes on the 20th of May this year. On Monday the 6th of January 25, the government held a debate on the subject in a quiet corner of the Westminster estate, as is reserved for such matters. Within hours of the debate concluding at 7 p.m, after a limited 3-hour session, the signatures had been added to by another dissatisfied 8,000 citizens. Where will this number be, I wonder, on the 20th of May 25? Might it outnumber the total votes counted for the PM's Labour Party at the last election, 9.7 million? Let me begin my summary analysis by drawing attention to the proceedings which unfolded on the day of the parliamentary debate, the 6th of January, as I said. The 3-hour session held by Parliament to consider Michael Westwood's petition was referred to as a debate, as is usual in these matters, and it's here I'd like to make my first point of commentary. The debate format. A standard definition of the word debate is offered by Wikipedia, saying, and I quote, "Debate is a process that involves formal discourse, discussion, and oral addresses on a particular topic or collection of topics, often with a moderator and an audience. In a debate, arguments are put forward for opposing viewpoints. Historically, debates have occurred in public meetings, academic institutions, debate halls, coffee houses, competitions, and legislative assemblies." I would attest that most people would reasonably agree with this definition. But what happened in this petition debate, like in all petition debates, is that the format did not allow for discussion or formal discourse. It was simply a collection of individual statements. These events are more like a hearing. Further, no speaker is obligated to reference their words or assertions to validate analysis or confirmations of agreed fact. It seems that a speaker can say what they wish, and it isn't protocol for any servant member of Parliament to call them out or challenge what's said. On top of this, like for any petition that reaches debating status, the debate was timed to last for a specific period, 3 hours in this case. It appears extraordinary that regardless of the matter debated, there is a fixed time for servant members of Parliament to read their statements, at the end of which the matter is closed. The servant members of Parliament then have a vote on whether a debate has been held, and then they go home. The work's finished and the matter ends there. There is no follow-up, debate or hearing, irrespective of the matter in focus. In October 2022, a similar debate was staged to discuss the efficacy and safety of the C-19 jab. The petition drew 107,000 signatures, and the subject could not have been any more serious or important. The debate was allotted a 90-minute duration, at the end of which it ended as they all do. No appointment of another, more in-depth session, test of information tabled, or the appointing of an investigative team to dig further and report back on findings. The servant members of Parliament voted in the way they do and went home. Job done. The above provides a first insight into the inadequacies of the current political system. The second insight follows. Addressing of the issue. The issue raised by the petitioner is an entirely fair one. Over 3 million citizens felt the same as he, and did certain non-Labour servant members of Parliament present also did. According, that is, to what they read out in their statements during the debate. The Labour government failed to keep its promises to the citizens, a point not contested by the Labour MPs present. Protocols prohibit, perhaps? Again, due to the inadequacies of the current political system, petitions will never trigger a general election, the very matter at front and centre of the petition under debate. I believe the petitioner was well aware of this fact, but simply wanted to make a point, and make a point he certainly did, with well over 3 million signatures supporting his view, at my time of writing. Only the PM can trigger an election or a vote in Parliament that forces one. Due to the balance of power in our Parliament, currently, with Labour holding a current significant majority of votes, neither route is expected to trigger that election before the end of the allotted term, 5 years from July of 2024. Not one of the Labour servant members of Parliament who read a statement during the debate gave mention to the fact that Michael Westwood or his 3 million plus followers had at least the shadow of a point. There was not 1 ounce of humility on display by these members of Parliament, a point which will not have gone unnoticed by anyone who sat through the televised 3 hours of proceedings. It is entirely fair for anyone to judge that the behaviour of the Labour members of Parliament, speakers on the day in question, was beyond despicable. Perhaps worse still than the lack of humility, although I cannot be sure, was the fact that every Labour member of Parliament who spoke or read a statement did so with total arrogance, given their individual dismissal of the petition's claim. They would not have it. They considered themselves innocent. Moreover, rather than address the point of the debate, the claim made by the 3 million plus citizens, each member of Parliament laid blame on the last Conservative government for the mess this government inherited in July of 2024. I have no doubt all that blame is essentially justified, but that was a subject for another day, coupled to a complete analysis rather than a convenient whitewash. The most hilarious feature of the whole proceedings, however, was the constant, unfailing mention of the much publicised £22 billion black hole Keir Starmer's government also inherited, but never explained. Let's look at that. The £22 billion black hole. This subject has been spoken about more times than I can possibly recount. Not one Labour member of Parliament, I venture, failed to bring this point to the attention of the debate, which was really about Labour's broken promises and lies. But since they gave mention to it, then what should be done? If we were talking about a black hole in a shop's takings at the end of the day, the week or month, we'd all say this: well, let's get those in charge on the rack and quiz them. We'll let loose the accountants and all the money handlers and get to the root of the failure and identify the guilty party. Let's put the police on notice that a crime has been uncovered. There has been no mention of such a process happening. The expectation is that the citizens will drink in the number, the £22 billion, and add their weight of opinion to the uncertified, unqualified claims being made. These politicians have an oversimplified idea of the intelligence citizens have. Citizens do see it. Before closing on this point, the current Labour Chancellor on camera was caught making this admission, and I quote, As Chancellor, I have to account for every penny of taxpayers' money spent. Interesting. I have to ask, is this a new idea? Has this just come in as a great Labour idea that was missed out of the Labour's manifesto? Or is it sound business practice that sounds great but, in reality, is totally ignored by every Chancellor, including the last one? Ignored or not, it is sound business practice, and it is expected of every accountant. Take that as read. Taxpayers' money, and all other monies, needs handling in exactly this way. So when will the forensic accountants move in to look into that black hole? Will Rachel Reeves please tell us when that's scheduled to happen? Now, returning to the main point, what if citizens did have the power to trigger an election? What if citizens had a mechanism to bring about a citizen's investigation on any matter deemed important enough to spend time and money establishing fact and blame? I have a sense that such a mechanism could now be on the horizon. One speaker at the debate gave more than a hint about changes in politics to come. His name is Nigel Farage, who on the day, I believe, perhaps came closest to addressing the debate as it should have been. I will add at this late juncture something which might answer a question you have in mind. Personally, I have no allegiance to any currently established political party. Further, I have not voted in a general election for 30 years. The reason being, I do not wish to give the current political system any reason to believe that I think it's worth working with or supporting. And I really don't. Like for anyone, my view is, if there is nothing in the shop I wish to buy, I don't buy. I leave. If more customers approach politics in this way, change could well happen, and maybe overnight. Whilst people are happy enough to accept something on offer they see as the only alternative, they will keep buying that old, out-of-date stock they surely really wouldn't prefer. As a final note today, I will add this. I have thought about starting a new political party. It would be a party to end all parties. Directly elected into power and with an overall majority, it would outlaw all political parties and then disband. That is, disband in favour of singularly elected citizen representatives serving a fixed term, save for behaviour or competence judgments levelled appropriately and elected at different times in the different constituencies. Party politics is agreed by many as the main cause of problems in our political landscape. Enough about that, though. Hopefully someone else will pick up the rod before I really have to. For the moment at least, I rest. I will, though, return to this very subject, this very debate, and express further comment about the proceedings on the day a few servant members of Parliament deigned to turn up to a so-called debate to read a statement which was barely relevant in any way to the petitioner's viewpoint and 3 million others on the performance of this government and its failed promises. Change can happen. Nothing is set in stone, and certainly not the way politics is done in the UK currently. It can all be changed, and very quickly. But for this to happen, the citizens of this country need to recognise and then act to get what is needed for a much better way of life led by people with integrity and a contract which spells out terms of performance. The future really is, for the moment at least, in people's hands. It would be a good time to take this opportunity. It is not set to last. I will return to this subject shortly, as I said. But for now, that's my current thinking and thoughts on this subject today. But I wonder, more importantly, what are your thoughts on all this? Thank you for listening to this Thought Byte today. I hope it's given you further things to think about on this important subject. For further information on this and related subjects, do check out the PDF version of this article, and the reference is links to many other enlightening and fascinating articles on a variety of topics. Meanwhile, I look forward to sharing my next thought bite with you very soon. Goodbye.